I think what we learned over the course of 24, particularly with big moments like the Olympics, is how important those moments are to seize as an advertiser, because you get tremendous brand lift, recognition, awareness, and the appropriate adjacency that really can drive all key indicators for your business. So as we look forward at opportunities across the board, at OMD, we're laser focused on those cultural signals, those relevant moments that are really going to meet the consumer and be particularly authentic for our advertisers. And that is no small task. So we have really invested heavily in a solution we call Q that helps us understand on behalf of our clients what is relevant to them, what is brand appropriate for them, and see around the corner a little bit into the future, and using data signals to really address what might be appropriate. And then in television, really there is no greater impact and no easier way to drive that impact than driving that through a television partner. I mean, if we look at what's available today with some of the opportunities with sports sponsorships, sports capabilities, the growing importance of sports and live events to really drive those moments that matter across the US population, there's going to be continued investment across the board in sports. And particularly, I think the highlight for us at OMD, and certainly with our buying unit Optimum Sports, is women in sports and these moments that have occurred that are really showing. I mean, the Caitlin Clark phenomenon throughout the year and her impact on the WNBA has just been tremendous to watch. And for our brands that are associated with it, it's provided tremendous value. So I think that this will continue to signify more and more investment in these moments, these opportunities, these sponsorships, and these capabilities. And we're certainly asking more and more of our TV partners in terms of what they can bring to the table to drive the data sets and the signals that we have access to inform our buying.
So with consumer viewing behavior changing and the rise in streaming, and we're also seeing big tech move into things like live sports. But how should brands think about the shifting landscape? Is it meaningful to them that people are watching sports on Amazon Prime versus NBC, let's say, or not?
It is meaningful in that we are seeing increasingly sports exist behind some form of paywall. So, a lot of these streaming services aren't purely free where these sports live viewership opportunities exist. And what's interesting is to watch our partners navigate that environment, because we know they need to do it to make the economics work, because sports isn't getting cheaper. It's certainly getting more and more expensive to procure those rights to broadcast. So it is something that we place a close eye on, and that is why we have a dedicated sports buying unit to do that, because it is so vital to understand what the impact of that will be on sports viewership and our affiliation with sports in these moments over time. Because the value of sports is the affinity and the moments that it creates on behalf of our advertisers. It really has become so important to drive timely reach in terms of a media plan and a media capability. I mean, NFL might be the most valuable content property, in the US right now. And the reason for that is because it drives consistent, timely viewership and has an effect to basically a halo effect, to basically lift a brand up and lift all of television viewership up around those events. And I think that will continue to be pervasive. Who gets to air those games is becoming increasingly exciting, shall we say. We've got Netflix now with the Christmas games. We've got our friends at Amazon with Thursday Night Football doing a fabulous job with that broadcast and growing viewership year over year. And our advertisers couldn't be more pleased in terms of their affiliation and their participation in that programming. And we'll see what Amazon does with the NBA. So, I mean, there's just lots happening in terms of the move away from traditional broadcasting of sports into more streaming. And we don't see that stopping, because you got to go where the viewers are. And the viewers seem to be all internet enabled and waiting to watch on their high-speed internet connections.
And when we look at streaming and you see how much time is spent with a platform like YouTube, what can you tell advertisers about that?
Well, YouTube is a tremendously powerful platform, and it's very cheap, efficient reach, obviously. It's one of the key value propositions is it's a very effective way to aggregate reach. I think the nuance to YouTube is there's so much there. Advertisers have to be very specific about their brand suitability controls and what they're actually engaging with on YouTube. And that's really where we spend our time, is around the YouTube targeting tool sets and curation tool sets, so that people know that they're showing up in the right spaces and places, in addition to the right price in terms of what they're buying. And another nuance about YouTube is a lot of that viewership is also purchased via some of our core partners. I mean, we can buy a ton of YouTube impressions that exist on the YouTube platform via NBC, because it's their content that's fueling the viewership. So there's so many different ways to buy YouTube, and buy it in a brand suitable way, in a very effective way on behalf of our advertisers. It's not going to slow down, I'll tell you that. It's only going to accelerate, and it is really about the value that the advertisers see there, and that we can prove exists on their behalf.
So looking ahead, are there any key trends you're keeping an eye on, or anything people should be aware of?
We are keeping a very close eye, as I have consistently mentioned, on the live marketplace. So any live event and/or sporting event that drives massive viewership in a single moment is increasingly more valuable at a time when it's harder and harder to aggregate the reach that television once produced. So the beautiful thing about television as a medium was that it was one to many. You were able to reach a ton of people with a consistent message in one particular moment. As we've become digital, that is less and less the case, as ads are delivered one by one. So those opportunities and those placements that really drive that mass reach, and those deep, deep moments of broad connection across the US population, those are things we are actively keeping an eye on and monitoring, because we do think that there has to be a way to mitigate that cost. Those are going to be increasingly more desirable and fewer far between. So we're actively working on solutions with our partners to find ways to recreate television, so to speak, recreate the magic that is that one-to-many experience, where an advertiser can get that mass reach for a very reasonable price.